When I first heard about child trafficking, it was information that my mind could not even conceive of. It haunted me for weeks. Babies and 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds being raped. They're taken into a brothel, they're broken into submitting.
It's called seasoning. They'll be the ones locked back in the room, chained back in the room. They'll be forced to service anywhere from 10 to 20 men a day. He side for 2 years, and they basically try to get them to check out mentally and just to lose their will to fight.
I couldn't believe it. I was completely overwhelmed with sadness. And I couldn't live with the thought of not doing something about it, because these could be my kids.
Right now, we are heading to the Muslim slum, and this is a huge pool for traffickers. They start out selling flowers, rings of flowers, and then from there it's a small step to brothels. And so the ones that you see on Slumdog Millionaire, all the child beggars, it's all very real. And its majority are these children from these slums. They're the beggars, they're the workers, they're the trash diggers, and they'll be the child prostitutes.
And these are the mothers who are selling their kids.
And so it just shows you the desperation and why people are selling their children. They look at it as it's better to sacrifice one child so that the other 4 will live. You cannot fathom why a mother would sell her child, but then you see their conditions and you see what they live in, and then you start to see, okay, they can't even feed their children. You find children in vulnerable situations, at-risk children, and you can prevent it if you're at the right place at the right time.
Did they try, the UN, for example, to stop what's happening?
Yeah, they have a whole anti-trafficking unit, but there's so much red tape. They have a whole anti-trafficking unit, but they have no safe home to bring them to. So when we got our girl for $24, they said, we're so thankful you got her. We knew she was going to be sold. And I said, well, why didn't you bring her somewhere? And they said, there's nowhere to bring her. Everyone's scared. No one will start a safe home. They're scared of the police. They're scared of the government. They're scared of housing illegal children.
Favorite moment so far in Thailand is when we were leaving the slum. They didn't want us to go, of course, so they're running after us and waving goodbye. We waved goodbye back, and they would go around the bend, and they would be the kids again, the same kids. They're like running over like backyards and stuff to like keep on waving goodbye to us. It's sad that they lived in the dumps, but just seeing they're still full of life and just so beautiful and kind and generous.
Oh my gosh.
It's a beautiful thing to see.
It's hard for me as a parent to imagine my kids going through what a lot of these kids that are victims of human trafficking are going through these days.
I met Stephanie at Artist Palooza, and she told me about the statistics of what was going on with the human slave trade of children in Thailand, and I was appalled.
It just makes you uncomfortable. Well, they're all our children, and we need to be doing whatever we can to stop this from happening.
I was also enrolled by her taking a stance of doing something about it.
Every day, a child is either being sold into slavery or killed, and so time is definitely of the essence. More children are being hurt, and so that just completely drives me, and hopefully that will inspire you to also act as soon as you can and help us.
Each one of us can make a huge difference. It's an overwhelming number when you think of all the kids who are being trafficked. 2 kids are being trafficked each minute, specifically for the sex trade. But, there's a lot of us out there, and if we made a difference in the life of one child, then that child would have a life in the future and would be able then to, in turn, help many others. It's so horrific what is happening to these little kids that I think that we shouldn't be at peace with it.
I just imagine a child praying somewhere, praying to God to get him or her out of this situation. Sometimes I wonder, how could God allow these prayers to go unanswered? But maybe He's connecting children with us right now. While the children praying, little does that kid know that he's praying, that there's people halfway around the world doing something to help. Hopefully that kid will soon know that he will be helped. Those prayers are being answered by all of us, by me, by you, and let's just do this. Let's make this happen.
Anywhere from 20,000 to 300,000 U.S. girls being trafficked in the United States.
We exist just to simply support the rescue and restoration of victims of child trafficking and prostitution.
This is the United States. We should not be abusing our own daughters.
Two of our girls in there were 6 and 8, and they were sisters, and their mom sold them for $350.
Exploitation is starting at around 8 years old. That's sick. Many of the girls that we have were actually threatened or coerced or physically just taken right off the street.
Praveen's tried to go to law enforcement. He went to the UN. He's gone pretty much every route he can take, but all of the local leaders and businessmen see them as nothing. And so there's pretty much nothing according to the world standards that can be done.
I used to be a San Diego police officer and was involved in trafficking actually 25 years ago, where we rescued 11 girls that were being shipped to Turkey. They thought they were being models, and they were part of a false modeling agency.
So much more can be accomplished when people get together. So much more. So that's huge for us tonight.
Couple hundred people here, which is amazing.
Eyes opened, you don't realize what's going on.
Just to support the cause of how can we reach more people, rescue more of these girls that are being trafficked all around the world, and come up with more of an actual system and a plan.
It kind of shocked me that even as a cop, I wasn't aware that this slavery stuff was going on in the United States.
These kids, what they're done is their parents sell them to an agent. The agent then sells them to the business owner, and the business owner then exploits them for the remainder of their lives. One of the women I talked to had been there for 30 years and not left the property.
And that's what these predators do, is they look for children as a product. Many of these girls have cognitive issues due to the damage and the trauma that they've experienced. I mean, being raped every single day for 14 hours a day is going to do something to you. The number one killer of these girls, suicide.
What would I do if it were one of my girls? If that happened to any one of my daughters, would I just kind of get up to my pulpit and open the Bible and say, hey, let's look at Luke 4 this week and sing a few songs? There's no way.
A lot of the girls get pregnant, obviously, and have babies, and these babies are living in this red light district. And they're living there under the bed when their mothers are working. And so not only when you're rescuing this girl are you rescuing the girl, but you're rescuing the next generation, this little baby.
To go out rescuing? I mean, just to know that you did something like that in your lifetime, even for one person?
Praveen, the pastor, approached us with a plan that he hadn't divulged to anybody, a plan that had been in the making for about 2 years.
So what we did was we bought a bar and a brothel, and we turned it into a church and a vocational training center.
The awareness is starting to pick up. People are starting to get kind of a sense of what's going on, and they're appalled as they should be. And so I'm kind of encouraged. I think that there's a movement towards rescuing these girls, providing for these girls, changing the laws.
Bottom line is, if you go with the right heart and say, you know what, this isn't about me, it's not to be a hero or anything, it's just because I'm crazy about these people and I got to do something for them, I don't think you can really go wrong, whether it works or not. The only thing that you can't do is just sit around and go, oh, those poor people, and go back to your regular life. That's when you fail.
I'm a painting contractor, and I'm going to see if the buildings that they have in that place up north, whatever needs maintenance and painting, I'm going to volunteer some time.
Just being here tonight and being part of it, it's completely, it is giving, and it's giving everything.
It's right, figuring out what tools in our hands and using them.
It's hard to, just go back to life as normal, I think.
Why did I see the things I've seen and they took my heart and soul, body, please come and rescue me.
I think I'm a real advocate of community awareness and community involvement. Making community groups speaking out. Say, look, we don't like this. This needs to change. The pressure from people, normal, everyday citizens, can make the difference.